Hello, this is Matthew Armstrong and welcome to Transformation Talk. Today I have a very great pleasure of speaking with Tammy Verlaan-Ross, Dr. Tammy Verlaan-Ross, and I'm sitting here in her chiropractic and life balance centre. That's what's called, isn't it?
Life and Balance
Life
Centre,
and
yeah.
Balance Centre here in Dublin. And I've just had gone through the process and been given the bars, which we're going to talk about in a while, which is like quite an amazing modality that is just really interesting, but we're not going to go into that just yet. But first of all, just thank you, Tammy, for inviting me into your centre here, and it's a pleasure to be speaking with you. I'm looking forward to hearing about everything that you do. You're a doctor of chiropractic, and also you do other sort of holistic things here as well, and you're a facilitator of Access Consciousness. So maybe we can start with just taking us and how did you get into all this? Maybe your life story, and also a bit about being a chiropractor and bars facilitator here in Dublin.
Cool. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here with you as well. I guess, how did I get into everything? I suppose chiropractic from a very young age. I suppose I had a lot of health problems as a child, and I was fortunate enough to be taken to a chiropractor as a child, and I had fantastic results. And I always looked at health as being a lot more than just sort of how you feel on the outside, and always been really interested in the whole, I suppose, concept that the power that made the body heals the body, and we have an innate intelligence, which our bodies are amazingly intelligent. So any reason, if there's anything not healing in the body or anything going on in the body, there must be some reason why. So that would be always something that I was very interested in. So I did go straight into chiropractic school. When I left high school, I went straight into chiropractic college, and I loved chiropractic because it was all about the whole enabling the body to express itself at its fullest, removing anything from enabling the body to work at its best. And then I was practicing chiropractic for quite a few years, and I was at a chiropractic conference when I had my bars first run. And when I had my bars, I thought, wow, it was probably the most relaxed I'd ever felt. So I thought, well, there has to be something to this. So actually at that weekend I did the bars course, and I learned to do the bars, and so it was something then that I incorporated into my work as a chiropractor, as a healer, and also then I started to teach bars classes to people, because I thought it was a fantastic technique that everybody can learn, and it's something you can learn to actually make a difference in someone else's life and also in your own life as well.
Yeah. Well, just as you said, you felt very relaxed after you had your bars run. I'm just feeling that now, that I'm feeling really relaxed, after having it done, and it's really interesting, the bars. And whenever somebody asked me the other day, so what is it you're going to get done? What's this thing?
The bars. You're drinking.
It's right. It's kind of hard to explain, and then people say, well, that sounds a bit hocus pocus, like how does that do anything? So it's very like we'll show it on the video. It's very like light touch and everything around the head. But how does it actually work?
How does it work? It's probably a good question. I guess, and I suppose when I first had my bars run, it really was that experience of like, wow, I just feel so incredibly relaxed. And I suppose also coming from, I'm a neurologically based chiropractor, so I work very much with measuring brainwave activity and that sort of area, and neurofeedback training and biofeedback training. So I really was able to experience that my brainwaves were slowing down. So it's working at that level also was pretty exciting. And I suppose for me it was like, well, it works. So I guess it wasn't really like, well, how does it work? What does it do? It works. I felt amazing. I'm so relaxed, and I did seem to sort of function differently after it. So, and then I was running bars on other people, and they were having the same experience. So if you look at what the bars are doing, I guess you're just holding, very gently touching these light points, and it's bringing up any of the judgments, any considerations, any limitations, anything you've ever stored or made important. It brings them up, and then it's like hitting the delete button.
Right.
So there are these 32 different points on the head, and they're all related to different areas of life. So there's bars for money, for healing, for body, for sexuality, all different bars. And when we lightly touch or hold them, it brings up those judgments and then it is like hitting the delete button, so we're deleting them out of existence. And I think for me, I'd always had an understanding, working with people as a chiropractor, I was always very aware of, if you change the way someone's body works, you change the balance in the nervous system of the body, you do change thoughts and you do change everything. People who would come for chiropractic care would notice that they were happier, and so they weren't as anxious, those sorts of areas as well. But then I also looked at, a lot of people had these perhaps beliefs or maybe thoughts or limitations that they put on themselves that was also affecting their ability to heal. So for me, it was really being able to look at, well, how can we take this from that whole perspective, because we change the body, they're not independent of each other. Your thoughts influence your body being out of balance or imbalance affects your thoughts. But if we could really address it all round, so that for me was what was so exciting when I first came across the bars, because it was a tool that could so easily get to removing those limitations for people. And first, from my understanding, I think you're slowing the brainwaves down so much in a bars session, and it's allowing us to get access to those judgments, the limiting beliefs and thoughts, so that we can bring them up and delete them. Another part of the bars is that it's the first class in any Access Consciousness class, because it's also about teaching people how to receive. And receiving something that people don't tend to do very well. If you ever pay someone a compliment, you realise how poorly people receive, especially in, I suppose, in where I've grown up anyway, and even from Australia to Ireland, people don't tend to receive very well. They spend their life sort of looking at what can I do, rather than how do I receive. So it's the first class in any Access class, because you do have to lay down and receive without obligation, without consideration. It's really teaching you how to receive. So that's another really important component of the bars also.
I'm so glad I'm speaking to you about the bars, because you're a doctor and have a scientific background with your chiropractic and your, I'm not even sure what it is, the biofeedback and all that.
Yeah, I suppose I work with Neuro Infiniti, so measuring neurological responses to stress as well. Yeah.
So for the scientific minds out there, is there scientific ways of basically testing how the bars is affecting the individual?
Well, I suppose I would incorporate it with certain people, would incorporate that into the work that I do with people, and we do definitely see changes with people's sort of neurological function as well. We haven't done a complete sort of study on measuring brain waves or anything, but from experience you do notice that your brain waves are definitely slowing down, and you are actually accessing that level with the healing. You're slowing the brain waves down, so that, as I said, you're able to get access to that, I suppose, that chatter that's going on, and bring it up and delete it. Yeah,
so something for me was what I'm interested in is if something gets results, then it's true, it's believable. It's
pragmatic,
rather than me being able to understand how it works with the limitation of the thinking that I might have had of, well, how does this work? How does this relate to anything I've ever learned before? And it kind of doesn't so much, but it seems to work. That's the thing, and those who I've spoken to, who I've interviewed in the past, who testimonies, I've seen a lot of them, and people seem to get great results from the work with Access, and getting one of the specific things is getting the bars, getting the bars run. So there seems to be like a lot of actual results that people are getting.
Definitely, and I think for part of my journey, there is a part of me that really loves science and loves that, and I think science can do some amazing things as well. The fact that we have this technology, Neuro Infiniti, where we can actually, connect sensors to people and measure their brain waves, and measure heart rate and heart rate variability, and measure neurological responses in the body, and we can see how they respond to stress and how they recover. That's amazing technology and things we can see, and I also always had a huge respect for the scientific aspect, I guess, of what I do as a chiropractor as well. But I've also always believed, and even when I was young, when I first had the experience of, I suppose, chiropractic care, I've always believed it's an energy technique as well, because everything is energy. Energy flows through our body, and what I get that I do as a chiropractor, I look for any interference in that energy that's flowing through the body, through the nervous system, and I'm removing it. And really what my job is, it's not to treat any condition, but it's to remove that interference to enable that person to heal at their greatest potential. And so it can do great work there in changing the actual body. And we do things like biofeedback and neurofeedback, which is quite scientific because you're measuring response in the body and changing it. And then I look at, the bars as something else and addressing these limiting beliefs and thoughts so that people can, we use the bars, it's an energetic process. It is energetically bringing up all these judgments, considerations, and hitting the delete button. But I suppose science is also telling us that everything is energy as well. Quantum physics, basically everything is energy. So I know it's interesting when people say, well, show me that, is it scientific or is it not? Because, science is energy, so I guess it's a mix. But I do like a bit of a balance between both, and so I'm interested in then I definitely think everything's energy, and it's nice when you also can see that it's changing things, when you can see actual evidence of things changing as well.
Yeah.
Not just, I suppose, what would you call it, testimony, I guess, but actually seeing things changing for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose it's interesting with your own work where you might take an X-ray and just see something out, and then you'll use your chiropractic practice to put that back in, and then you'll see it aligned, right?
Yeah, I guess I tend to work more from a functional perspective. I don't work a huge amount with X-rays. And I think X-rays are extremely valuable, but for me, I see that X-rays are kind of showing the damage that's been done. It's quite static, but they are extremely valuable, and of course there are times when we do need to refer people for X-rays. The technology they use in Neuro Infiniti I find so fantastic, because that's a functional look, and it's actually not just a still, this is you, right? Like here it actually looks to see, when we do a Neuro Infiniti test, we put people through mild stress events and recovery, so we can actually see, well, do you respond appropriately during the stress, and do you recover appropriately? So we're really getting that picture of, well, how is the body actually functioning, and how is it actually able to adapt you, or your nervous system in particular, how is it able to adapt you to your surrounding environment? That's really what we're looking at with that. So it's a real functional look at what's actually going on. Then we can see the areas that may be doing well, or the areas that there was challenges. And for me, as a chiropractor, I've always, the nervous system controls everything. So if you have interference in your nervous system, it affects the ability of you to be able to, of your body to be able to control and coordinate you with the environment. So that's really what we're doing. So I'm looking for any areas of abnormal patterns that have developed in that nervous system, and then I'm using very gentle techniques to correct those areas. So as I said, we get the body into balance, which is great, and that affects all kinds of things. And we do have biofeedback and neurofeedback training as well, so people can be empowered to learn to control those responses themselves. And then there is the other side, which is the bars and could be access processing and other energy techniques as well, where people then it is about looking at, well, if there's limiting beliefs, if there's judgments, if there's thoughts that is influencing the other side, it's not independent. You have to address all of that. So we're really looking for that all-round picture of what we do. Yeah.
Right. So as a chiropractor, you'll see results with clients, right? Like
all
the time. Where
definitely.
They come in, they're not so good, then they go away and they feel better, or next week they call you and say, oh yeah, I'm fixed, or whatever. Or just progressively as you keep adjusting them, they get better and better.
Hopefully they'd understand they don't get fixed. But
yes, right.
It's a pattern.
Yes.
And of course we do have people, we always give people choices actually. We do say chiropractic care can be great for giving you relief from a symptom that's going on for you, definitely. You can stop care then if you like, or you can actually look at how you can actually get yourself at your optimum level and have your body functioning at its peak performance, at its optimum level, so you're at your greatest. And for me, life's about living, so you want to get the greatest you possibly can out of life. So I give people choices and let them see what they'd like to, they choose what they'd like to get out of the experience.
And just could you mentioned there's different points on the head that you touch, and these are connected to various things in our life, such as like joy and sadness and money and things like that, and the body and sexuality and such things like that. And I noticed whenever you put your fingers somewhere behind my ears or on the back of the head, it felt like my body switched on like a light bulb. It was almost like it was glowing, and it just felt everything just like went ding for a while. And so I felt some very tangible experiences from doing it there, and right now I'm feeling very balanced. I'm kind of relaxed. So can you just explain more about these different points on the head? And
so there's bars for, there's 32 different different
Why
bars.
are they called bars?
Because they're that's a good question. Because they're bars, because most of them are bars of energy that run through the head. So like if we use, for example, the money bars here, and you're running the energy through those bars from one side to the other.
Mm-hmm.
There are some bars which are on the top of the head which seem to run into the head, but that's why they're called bars.
Mm-hmm.
They're bars of energy that running through. So there's 32 different points. As I said, there's bars for money, healing, body, sexuality, aging, creativity, what else is there? Kindness, gratitude, peace and calm. Perhaps we could put up a list of the 32 rather than me reciting them all off. But there's the 32 different points, and they are all related to different areas of life. So, and we often run them in combinations as well. So they tend to run very dynamically in certain combinations, which we do teach in the workshops as well. But and then you're running those bars, and then it normally takes about an hour to an hour and a half to do a bars session on someone, but it could go for a lot longer if you want to as well. But normally running those points.
You spend quite a long time on each point. Like there's the 32 points, we say a session lasts for an hour and a half. What's the reasoning behind being on each point for?
Yeah, we would like to run every bar until they at least turn on and turn off. And people think, what do you mean by turn on, turn off? When you learn to do it, you do get to start to experience that. So we run them until they turn on and until they turn off. And you could run them until they turn on again and off again, on again and off again, but you want to at least run them until they've turned on, and normally wait until that bar's turned off as well before you move on to the next one.
All right, so what's your experience as when you're actually given the bars? What are you experiencing yourself then?
Everybody feels energy in different ways. I tend to function from whenever I just kind of get this, yep, that's on, that's off. It's, for me, it's just I kind of get this, yep, that's it. Some people feel tingling in their fingers, some people feel all different ways of knowing, and that's what, when we do a bars workshop, we facilitate people to get that awareness of what's happening. I know you spoke to Dane here, he does say on the introductory DVD if people will give themselves 10 sessions before they start judging themselves if they're not feeling something initially. Give yourself some time to experience that, because I suppose we are also very conditioned that we have to see hard evidence and facts, and not that we can just actually follow the energy and know that something is, if you know something, it's instantaneous. If you have to think about something, it takes time. It is an instantaneous, it's a knowing that we're looking for, and that experience of actually knowing the bars are actually running.
Okay, great. Yeah, it gives us a good sort of understanding now of it. And then I know the question people will be asking now is, where does it come from? Where does this understanding come from?
The bars? I suppose Gary Douglas is the founder of the bars, and I say we're going back maybe over 30 years ago now that he discovered the bars, and he basically came up with these 32 different points that are now called the bars, and he basically came up with the points and then sort of energetically got that he should be running this as workshops, and he started getting groups of people together and teaching the bars, and it grew from there.
Okay. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
And what else, like you've got there, I just want to talk maybe a bit more about, because this is a life and balance centre, it's not just a chiropractic centre, like, you do quite a lot of stuff here, but so maybe just talk a little bit about everything else you do here.
I suppose our primary focus is in life and balance. It's getting our intent, declaration of intent is empowerment, to empower people to be the greatest that they can possibly be, and have the greatest quality of life possible. So our big focus of what we would work with would be stress, because we know that stress causes 95% of all disease and illness is caused by stress, or not necessarily caused by stress, but caused by perhaps us not responding to stress in an appropriate way. So what we really look at is how can we actually change the way our body, our being, how do we actually respond to stress and how we deal with stress. So that's how well are we actually controlling ourselves and coordinating ourselves with the environment. So they say the brain computes 5 billion bits of information every second, which is pretty astounding. So we're looking at if the brain's doing that, we obviously need to make sure that the brain is able to communicate with the body in the most appropriate way, and also the brain's able to take in everything going on around us in the most appropriate way. So that's where we come in with the stress response testing, where we can actually sit people down with the Neuro Infiniti. We put these sensors on. They're non-invasive. We measure brainwave activity, put some sensors on the ears, the top of the head. We measure breathing rate. We put sensors on the fingers to measure hand temperature, skin conductance, and heart rate variability, which is really how efficiently the heart's working. And we measure muscle activity. And what happens in the test is we put people through some mild stress events and then a recovery. So we have a maths test, which is more of a cognitive test, a recovery. We have some distracting noises and a recovery, and that's more of an emotional test because the noises bring up a lot of emotions for people. And we get people to do a breathing task and a recovery. So that would be one first point of that we do with everybody who comes in. Obviously, I take a history and find out what people's targets are, what they're looking to achieve, those sorts of things. Then I would do, that would be the Neuro Infiniti test to really look and see, okay, well, how is the body functioning on the inside? And then I do more of a, I suppose you call it more of a physical evaluation. I want to look at how stress is affecting people physically, which we know can affect our posture, our muscles, all those aspects as well. And then as a chiropractor, my primary training and I suppose my primary art is being able to find where in the nervous system, if we look at the brain and the spinal cord, where through that nervous system is there any interference. And these interferences have probably developed from, it could go from birth to all the stress events, any physical events or chemical or emotional stresses that we have all through life affect the nervous system. So we're looking to find where those bad habits, those patterns are, and then as a chiropractor I would be working on correcting those areas. But once we have all that information, we can sit down with people and say, well, we've got an evaluation here, we take it, as I said, we'd have a history, everything together, this is what we see is going on, and now here's some choices for you, what you can actually do to change that. So, as a chiropractor, that would be one aspect of changing the way the body is dealing with stress. The most powerful tool I'd have, is actually changing the nervous system. Then we would also work with biofeedback and neurofeedback training, so teaching people how to get control over those responses themselves.
A lot of people won't know what that is, neurofeedback, biofeedback. Could you just give a background on what that
definitely,
is?
yeah. So the sensors that I was talking about we use to do the testing, we use those sensors when we're doing biofeedback and neurofeedback training as well. But when we do a biofeedback or neurofeedback training session, you actually have the sensors placed on you, and then you're able to see a screen, and so you see that, okay, when I do this, then I get this response back. So it's feedback back to you. So biofeedback means any kind of training, or it could be heart rate variability training, breathing training, skin conductance training, learning to warm hands up, those sorts of things. Neurofeedback is actual brainwave training as well. So we have those sensors on. People are looking at a screen, so they're able to see, okay, well, at the moment, my hands are this temperature. When I relax and when I do some techniques, I actually warm my hands up 2-3 degrees, or so that's Celsius. And then we have, you can do other sorts of things like breathing training, and we can get to the point where people can learn how to control their brain waves as well. So that would be what we'd be doing, sort of more from that side, more sort of influencing the body. As I said, it's not independent, that is going to change your thoughts and all those aspects as well. And then you have things like the bars and the access tools, which will really work at those limiting beliefs and judgments, but not only they're going to affect your thoughts, they can also affect the body. So there's, as I said, they're not independent of each other. But for me, it's about sitting down with someone and saying, okay, well, this is what we found, we've gone through, we know what you're hoping to achieve, we know what your targets are, this is what's going on with you at the moment. Now based on this, we can now look at, well, here's some choices for you going forwards, and here's your recommendations, and people then really get to choose what works for them. And also what's again being about empowerment is that when people have the information, they're not blindly saying, well, this is best for me, or this is what I'll do next. They're actually able to sit down and say, well, look, this is what's happening. It's clear. My brain's not responding very well here, or my heart rate variability is not very good. Or actually, this area is doing quite well. They're able to sit down and say, okay, I can really see where the challenges are. I can see where there's problems with how well I am adapting to my environment, and now here's my choices to actually change that. And it's good that we have different choices for people, because different things work for different people as well, and sometimes people are ready for different things also. You know, not everybody who comes to our centre will experience, you know, a bars session, and not everybody who has a bars session wishes to come and experience the other aspects.
Is
so it is about
that
giving.
You recommend it to that will come in, you'll think, okay, that person might be open to access consciousness, or.
I tend to give everybody choices. I tend to give them sort of the information. I do use, obviously, it's, you know, where they come in, finding out what their targets are, and then sitting down with them saying, well, these would be based on my experience.
Yes.
These would be what I would probably recommend will get the greatest results for you, and perhaps we can look at bringing some other things in as well. I tend to give, you know, people different. It's really up to them, their choice. But that's an interesting thing that you said there as well, because part of being a healer or working with people is also knowing what people can receive and what will be the greatest, you know, what's going to create the greatest change for them, give them the greatest possibilities. So sometimes I will look at, well, perhaps we'll start with this, and then as we've addressed that aspect, we may be able to go and look at the other aspects also. We don't completely overwhelm people in the beginning. If we'll start with baby steps and what we can change, and then work from there.
And do you think that if people don't believe in the bars, will it still work with them?
That's a good question. I get yes. Yeah, it'll still work. It still works. You're running the bars. It's happening. They don't necessarily have to believe in it. You know, I think for most, I've run bars on a number of people, and people tend to say they felt extremely relaxed, and people have noticed changes after, definitely. Of course, there are people who don't believe in things, and that can occur, but most time, by the time people get in and they're willing to have a session, they're pretty much on par with looking to be open to what else is possible here as well. So normally in that question and space to allow things to actually change.
All right, great. What would be maybe the most the most important distinctions that you've learned, or the biggest most transformative distinction you've had since being involved with Access?
When I got into doing Access Consciousness, and what really appealed to me about it is I did realise that I functioned so much of my life from judgment, you know, and not judging other people, judging myself.
Okay.
You know, I'd functioned so much from that place. And it's interesting, this is where we get to that point where I was saying that sometimes it's hard to remember what things were like before, because that's something I've actually sort of forgotten until you asked me that question. So thanks for that. Yeah, I'd functioned so much from judgment, and always having to have everything perfect. You know, even to do, you know, an interview like this, I probably would have felt very uncomfortable if I hadn't prepared, or maybe wouldn't have done it, you know. And now it's just like, great, we'll just, you know, I've learned to follow the energy and be willing to mess things up if it happens. It's okay. Or, you know, whereas I function so much from judgment, having to have everything perfect, and also I function very much from that I had to do everything myself. That, you know, I had to be tough and strong, and just you know, I could get help from people, but I should know all this. I should be able to do it very much myself. And I probably didn't realise I functioned from that then. And then from going in, as I said, when I first had my bars run, it really was that, wow, I've never felt this relaxed ever, you know, in my life. And then coming from that, and then doing some further classes, I started to really get out of that functioning from judgment all the time. And it was, as I said, it wasn't that I was judgmental, you know, necessarily of other people around me. It was always judging everything that I did myself. Oh, if only you'd done it this way, if what have you done this, or what have you done that. I'd function so much from that judgment. And I think we are very conditioned from a very young age to function from judgment. Well, I pretty much was, you know, conditioned that that's how you function, that's how you're going to get the best results in life, you know, sort of thing, if you constantly judge and do that. Which is why it's interesting when you came back to that question about, you know, is it important to have the scientific proof? Well, for me, I'm probably, yes, I think science is really important, but I also, it's great to have it, and it's great to see when you can show things like that, but I'm much more a person for following my intuition or my energy on something. That would be something that would rage probably, if it's something that's intuitively right for me, I'll know it, you know, and that's something that I really like to empower other people to know too, to be in touch enough with their bodies and their beings to actually have that empowerment to know that they know. And that's what the tagline of Access Consciousness is, empowering you to know that you know. And that's, for me, I mean, I often say to people when they come in, you know, nobody knows you more than you know you. really my job is just to enable you to be all that you can actually be. You
Yes.
know, I'm not saying my job is to say, oh, you do. Even when I said I'm giving people recommendations and that, it's not as if I'm saying, well, I know more than you. Just from my experience and what we're seeing in your tests, these are some ways we could actually assist you into being all you can be, which is really what we're targeting to do. So I'd function so much from judgment, and then, you know, from doing these classes, having my bars run, I just was able to step out into being me as well, and not particularly being worried about how I was judged or what would show up from that. It was really about functioning as me. And you know, they say in one of the sayings is be you and change the world. And I think the greatest thing that I noticed there was that if you are just you can make the greatest difference possible. You know, I don't know if you saw a clip by Temple Grandin. Do you know Temple Grandin? She's an autistic lady. It's interesting to check her out, but they asked her what's the meaning of life, and she said the meaning of life is to make real change every day. And for me, that's really what motivates me. It's not about everything else that's going on. If you can make real change every day, it doesn't matter if I have to be perfect or get it right, or whereas I functioned so much from that. And that was probably the biggest change for me. I didn't go in with any particular, you know, health concern or anything like that. I went in, and you know, I was probably pretty happy in my life and that as well, but now I have so much more. I really have that space to truly be me and not be worried about what everybody else thinks that looks like. Yes. And the interesting thing is when you actually are willing to be that, people probably judge you less, which is quite funny, because I think they see all the judgments you have of yourself, and then they take them on as well.
So when we're talking about judgment's a very it's kind of like a broad term. It can be used for many different things.
True, yeah.
So what we're talking about here is like condemnation. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, actually, judgment is an interesting one, because I think and possibly also you've talked a lot about that whole science and the energy side of things. Perhaps, you know, going through school and everything, you also get very conditioned into this whole, you know, I think chiropractic school was a wonderful experience, but there are also some elements that took you away from the intuitiveness and the energy that I already always knew that chiropractic was, and then you were almost told, oh no, now you have to follow, as almost like you said, oh, if the x-ray says this, do what the x-ray says, rather than what you intuitively say. So I suppose we are so conditioned to have that right answer, to judge, to get that. So when I'm talking about judgment, it doesn't necessarily mean condemnation. That's part of it, like the judgment could be, it could be, oh gosh, why didn't you do that way? But also things that we judge that we've got right affect us just as much as the things that we've, probably more actually, than the things that we think we've got wrong. Because if we think we've got them wrong, we're kind of more willing to change them. But if you have a judgment you've got something right, there's really no space for any other possibility. And there's some things like I love about the tools of access consciousness, and you're asking those questions like, how does it get any better than this? What else is possible? There's another question, what's right about this I'm not getting? You're just opening yourself up to the space of what else is possible, you know, what else in the universe is possible to me. If you function from, no, I have a judgment, this is the right answer and this is all there is, nothing else can possibly show up. And I think I had, even though I was still quite into energy and all of those things, there was probably an element where I had decided I had things right as well, and there wasn't a space for other possibilities. And now I really see my life as following the energy. I function every day from, what grand and glorious adventures am I going to have today, and live in 10-second increments. I'm willing to change my point of view in 10 seconds. I don't have to hold on to a fixed point of view, and they're all things that really I developed through doing the bars and the access consciousness tools as well.
And I suppose that releases, gives us more energy, because it releases a lot of energy that we would have in these judgments, so to speak.
So true, I mean, judgment really, when you look at judgment, as soon as you have an answer or a judgment, nothing else can show up. So you've really just cut off any energy. If you're willing to be in the question and always question and look for what else is possible, then it's limitless. What else is possible? How does it get any better than this?
Very good. Can you maybe just tell us about the service you have, where if people can come here, and they can, you've got a bars workshop. I know there's one. You've got one running
I do run bars workshops. I probably run them about every month, or 2 months. So You can get information on the bars workshops either from our website, which is www.lifeandbalance.ie, and they also are on the Access Consciousness website, which is www.accessconsciousness.com. We do also have a mailing list and things like that, so people are more than welcome to subscribe to that. The bars class, as I said, about once a month. If people are wanting to come in to sort of have sort of an overall assessment and see how their body is dealing with stress, we also take people in for an evaluation where we do the history and the stress response testing, and then organise a full report to go through those results also, and that's obviously through Life and Balance Centre, so perhaps I can give you the details, the website and phone number and things. Perfect, yeah.
Okay, great. Before we finish up, Tammy, is there anything else we can you'd like to talk about?
I think we're pretty covered.
Yeah.
Great questions, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure to be here, to have the bars run, and I'm looking forward to the next weeks and months and see what change I feel.
Yeah.
I'll be tuned into it anyway.
Definitely,
to see what does happen, because it's something that I've seen great results with, and I'm all about that. If something gets results, then it's obviously works. What's the truth? What works is the truth. That's the way I kind of see it. So I'm looking forward to that, and also Victoria had hers done, and little Indigo as well. Kind of, because that's holding it. So.
There's a great photo of that anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll put some things up on the screen as well about that.
Brilliant.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much, Tammy.
Oh, thank you so much. It was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much. This is Matthew Armstrong, and much appreciation.